Rachel Holt for Nesson.com. Welcome into week 10 of the fantasy football season. I'm joined by John Halpin of Fox Sports. John, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here, Rachel. Thanks a lot.
Of course, and it's an interesting week 10 going on. We have 4 teams on byes, the first thing to keep in mind. So we're without the Bills, the Lions, Colts, and Raiders. And this is an interesting week in terms of guys that we want to pick up on the fantasy football waiver, because we're getting to that point where picks are dwindling. You don't have the running backs that we had in previous weeks. We're not going to find a Jay Ajayi this week. But let's first start out with quarterbacks so we can try to help these people out. First off, Joe Flacco is the name I'm hearing a lot this week because the Ravens take on the Browns, and Joe Flacco's never a guy that you want on your fantasy football roster in terms of your starting quarterbacks. But is this week a week that you may want to look at this guy?
I think so. I mean, if you have, let's say, Matthew Stafford, right? The other guys this week, Andrew Luck's off this week, Derek Carr's off this week. So some of you need a quarterback. Look, I normally wouldn't recommend Flacco either. He's the 22nd fantasy quarterback this season in fantasy points, but he's playing the Browns Thursday night. The Browns are 30th in fantasy points per game allowed to opposing quarterbacks. Look, if you're looking to stream and replace Stafford or Carr or Luck in week 10, Flacco might be your best option, and he's available in 80% of FoxSports.com leagues.
Okay, other names that I'm hearing is Jay Cutler and Colin Kaepernick. Are these two names also guys that you wouldn't want on your starting roster normally, but maybe these guys are streamable for week 10?
They might be. I actually prefer Cutler to Kaepernick. Look, I've been on the Kaepernick train for the last 3 games, and against the Saints, he really paid off for me. However, the Niners are going to Arizona this week, and I know Kaepernick kind of has that high floor because you know he's going to get some rushing yards, but at the Cardinals, I think that's too risky a spot. My order would be Flacco, then Cutler, then Kaepernick if I was hunting for quarterbacks.
Okay, I have to ask you about this one quarterback in particular, Russell Wilson. We all thought he was going to have a great year. It hasn't really panned out for us, those who drafted us early and wanted him as our starting QB, the guy to go to. But last night, he threw for 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown. And now that he's healthy, he's looking a lot more like the guy we all wanted him to be. So is this a guy who starts to have a great second half, in your opinion?
I think it gets better. I actually read something this morning from one of the beat writers that covers the Seahawks. And what Pete Carroll said was, basically, before we landed on the way back from New Orleans last week, we decided we were going to open the offense up. They've basically been protecting Wilson for the last 4 or 5 games. And now they kind of thought they could take the reins off him a little bit. And with that, their line doesn't run block all that well, so they decide to run less, throw more. You saw it last night. I think you're going to see more of it.
Okay, well, obviously injuries playing into things with that guy, but injuries as a whole in Week 10, we got some guys that we're looking at. Spencer Ware is still in concussion protocol. We have Jeremy Maclin, who's day-to-day. Jaquiz Rogers is walking around with a boot on his foot. So in terms of these guys, which one has the biggest impact on the fantasy football world?
Well, Spencer Ware is a huge one. I mean, they're playing at the Panthers, and the Panthers defend the run well, but Spencer Ware has basically made himself one of the top 10 running backs in fantasy football. So he's someone you're counting on, and you really need to watch. Andy Reid did say Monday he thought there was a good chance Ware would play, but the concussion protocol, it's not a progressive recovery necessarily. I mean, there is progress to it, but at some point they can't say, well, maybe he can play and we'll give him a chance if he's ready. Either he's out of the concussion protocol or he isn't, and right now he isn't.
Okay, John, we already mentioned that you're not going to find a Jay Ajayi this week, but hey, one of the guys that might come back, and here at the New England Sports Network we're particularly focused on, is Dion Lewis, who might return for the Patriots after suffering an ACL injury last year and not playing at all this year. So is this a running back that perhaps we want to pick up on our team and maybe even start this week if he is playing?
Yes on the pickup, probably no on the start. You know, a lot of people have had Dion Lewis stashed and have been waiting for him for weeks. He's actually still available in about 66% of leagues at FoxSports.com. I read something from one of the beat writers on Monday that said, even if Lewis gets activated, which has to be this week or next if he's going to play at all, they might ease him in. You know, they're 7-1 and they've got James White. So it might be smart for them to sort of take it easy on Dion Lewis, work it. You make sure he's up to speed for the end of the season and the playoffs, which is great for the Patriots, not so great for fantasy owners. So I think even if Dion Lewis gets activated this week, he's kind of a tough guy to start in week 10.
Okay, let's talk about some other running backs maybe that you're looking at this week.
some other running backs. There are a lot of guys who seem like they're in committees that have emerged as part of committees, but not really lead backs. Paul Perkins from the Giants, Tim Hightower from the Saints, Kenneth Dixon from the Ravens. They are all Rob Kelly from the Redskins. He actually might be the lead back, but they are playing the Redskins. They're all guys who are going to some extent, share with other people on their teams. I think Perkins actually might emerge as the Giants' lead back. Problem is the Giants don't block all that well. All of those guys are available. Hightower's available in about 70% of leagues at foxsports.com. Kelly's 85%. The other guys, Dixon's 95%. Perkins is 98%. So if you want them, there's a lot of running back options this week. They're not great, like you said, not Jay Ajayi's, but they're solid.
Let's talk about some matchups here that are interesting. First of all, those poor Jets. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who suffered a sprained ligament. He might not be good to go this week, so then they're relying on Bryce Petty. They take on the LA Rams, so is it safe to say the Rams defense may be the one to look at this week?
They might be, and amazingly, it surprised me. They're available in over 50% of leagues at foxsports.com, so you can get the Rams. Hey, you could also grab the Jets defense, which is more widely available because they're playing against Case Keenum. I can't say that a Case Keenum, Bryce Petty game would be easy on the eyes, but if you're looking for fantasy defenses, you might want to target it.
All we care about is the fantasy points, and
right.
It helps matters a lot if you're picking up those points, even if it is an ugly game. Other matchups that are intriguing to you, what do you got?
What do I got? Let's see. As far as scoring goes, Falcons-Eagles could be an interesting one. I want to see how the Broncos-Saints goes because you look and you think, Trevor Siemian's not playing well, but can anybody score against the Saints? And the Superdome is kind of it's a place where a lot of points get scored, so that's a game to watch. The other one's really, for real football purposes, Cowboys-Steelers is going to be the really fun one this weekend. This is going to be another game where we see how good the Cowboys really are.
What do you think? Predictions moving forward. If Dak Prescott can win this one, does he hold on?
If he wins this one, I don't see how you take him out. At 8-1, if you made a change, I think the other guys in that team might have a bit of a problem with it.
Seems a little foolish. Any other things to keep in mind going into Week 10?
Into Week 10, well, you do have those quarterbacks off that we talked about. As far as matchups to watch, that Patriots-Seahawks game. Dion Lewis, the guy, is certainly one of the guys I've been watching. But that game itself, I'm curious to see how the Seahawks approach it. As far as will that offense stay opened up like it was on Monday night?
It will be interesting moving forward. Last thing, John, is where can we find more from you?
All my work is at foxsports.com/fantasy. And if you want to ask me any Twitter questions, I'm at jhalpin37.
Okay, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.